Hey everybody, and welcome back to the X-Foils podcast. Sorry, I took a little break. I couldn't do the episode a week upload for every Tuesday, so I'm going to start laying it back a little bit. I was really enjoying my time here in Maui. I'm going to be at the airport in 2 hours. So I'm doing a Kihei run here. And yeah, this next episode is Frank. I'm on Frank's Foilboards right now. It was super awesome to sit down with him in his garden and chat about where he came from and that he's trying to make this thing happen full time and how progressive his shapes are, and just super rad dude. It was so fun to hang out with him, do runs with him and the crew, and loving all of his boards. I tried about eight of his boards: chrome boards, wing boards, downwind boards, 9.4s, 9-footers, 8-footers, 8.11, 7.10. This new board is sick. So really excited to get my board from him. And thanks everybody for listening. If you are listening to this on the audio podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, remember this is recorded live on YouTube. If the audio is horrible, I am so sorry. I'm recording this on a downwinder in Kihei on my last day in Maui. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this one. And if you want to order a board from Frank Foilboards on Instagram, I'll link it in the description below. Thanks everybody. Aloha. Recording. That's good. We've got mics, I've got memory card, I've got audio, I've got battery, I've got Francesco.
We got everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Let me put my phone on silent.
Silent. Boom.
Ready?
Ready.
All right. Hey everyone, welcome to the X-Foils. I'm Dylan, your host. I'm sitting here with
Francesco.
Frank Foilboards.
Yep.
And I'm actually a little bit of a different setting this time. We're in Hawaii, Maui
yard style.
Sitting at your house on some beach chairs, and yeah, a little bit of a different role.
Cruising.
Not in my fake studio. So yeah, it's been super fun to be here in Maui. I've taken it a little bit easy on the podcast.
Yeah.
We've talked before that you wanted to be on here, and I wanted you on here because we're riding your beautiful downwind boards, and you've got a lot of history in the board making and water sports, and been in Maui for a while, so we'll get some history and we'll talk about your boards. I've been on 6 of them so far this trip, including downwind boards, wing boards, so that's super cool, man.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So welcome to the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love the podcast. I've been listening to the episodes. It's so fun to because you kind of know everybody from Mickey's been coming here for. I met him last couple of years, but he's been coming here forever, and Art is always talking to me about all the Puerto Rico guys. And then so
it's a good crew of us this year.
So it's fun to listen to the podcast and know everybody's little story and where they came from, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't think about that because I had Roy on there, I had Gio on there, I had Mickey, I had Walt, which is he's like next door. Art's next door here. Like it's a cool little kind of space you guys have got here, and everybody's riding your boards now because of Mickey.
Mickey started it all. It's funny cool. Because last year Mickey, when he was here, he we're doing some downwinds together, and he was like, oh, before I leave we need he's like, can you design me a board? And I'm like, sure, like we can try something. But last year I was still, because I'm a pharmacist, I was still working full time at a pharmacy, so we didn't really do much of downwinding because I was busy. I didn't do any of the races. I think I just did Imua last year. He wanted a board, but I didn't have time, and then things changed. I quit my pharmacy job because it was just miserable. I'm like, I can't, like, I want to try and do what I really love, because I've been building boards since 2010, surfboards and then foil boards and all that. And
yeah, I was looking at your Instagram.
Yeah.
Because you've got Frank Foilboards, and then you've got your personal.
Yeah.
And I was looking, and you're pretty good at kite surfing, the
Yeah,
strapless.
yeah,
You even competed.
I used to ride for, well, first, my first sponsor was the Slingshot imported in Italy. And that's actually how I met my wife. Is I came here for the last KSP event they did here at Hokipa, and then she was doing the event too, and we met, and then here I am now. And then from that, I met the Cabrina guys, and then I was on their international team for strapless. But then for a couple of years, I think there was no events because KSP kind of faded off because they didn't have sponsors or they have issues. And it was about a couple of years before the new tour built up. And so all I was doing is just trying to do content, you know, videos, film with my friend back home when we go kiting. And it's kind of hard because in Italy, where I'm from, we get conditions, but it's not like Maui, like, oh, I'm gonna go every day I can create content. It's like, okay, this month there's been wind twice.
And where's home?
It's an hour north of Rome, a little town named Tarquinia. It used to be a pretty focal point for windsurfers around like Rome and the towns inland. There used to be a windsurfing club that was 100 guys, and they would all meet there. That's how I started, you know, surfing and windsurfing. Is you know, you go to the beach and you see all this new stuff when you're a kid, and you're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I used to sail. I started sailing when I was 7 years old, the little Optimist boats, and then we went on the catamarans. I was at the beach a lot, and then, you know, with my parents, and then, you know, you're sailing is fun, but then you see the windsurfers, and you're like, oh, I want to do that. And then so that, you know, start windsurfing, and then you start kiting, and then here I am. So yeah, that was doing
in Maui.
Yeah, so from strapless kiting, I came here, and I was like, whoa, this is.
What year was that you came here the first time and met?
That was 2013, I think. 2013 was the last KSP event.
Meow.
Here comes Piero. This is the
What's
dog
up, kitty
cat. So yeah, then we met, and you know, we're here now. 2 kids, building boards, downwinding.
Yeah, it's pretty epic here in Maui.
Yeah.
Like, it's quite a scene. In Puerto Rico, we don't really have. I mean, we have Mickey. Like, that was our downwind scene.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then it was Roy, and then it kind of built up. And I'm on this like chat back at home, and you can see there we're trying to.
Yeah.
People are kind of gathering up and doing runs. But
Yeah.
man, here it's just wild to be here. I've never been. I'm super fortunate to be able to come here with my family, and then now they left and I'm here alone, so I get to
a little bachelor time.
Yeah, a little like a little bit more. I mean, they let me session the whole time. I've been on the water every single day.
Yeah.
Windy every single day.
Yeah.
Although you guys sometimes are like, it's light. I'm like, it's blowing 25. What are you talking about?
I learned not to be too picky after, because everybody's pretty picky here. But after going to Oahu all winter for the little practice races that John Herman's putting up. You know, after going there and see how stoked they are on conditions that we would never go.
Yeah.
I was like, coming back here, I'm like, okay, well, let's don't be picky because we're pretty lucky. Like, it gets good.
I mean, it's all perspective, right?
Yeah. It's
just the same. We come from Puerto Rico. I'm like, it's 16 knots. I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah. And the falls are so good now that it doesn't really. I mean, last year still you'd be like, am I gonna get up or can I ride? And now, you know, the boards are good, the falls are good. You know you can go, so it's just a matter of like you just want to go only when you can ride your 670, or you're fine even with your 850. Because you can go every day. Like we go, you know, on the weekends sometimes we go to Sugar Cove, take the kids there, and I have Toddy just drop me off at Hokipa. I'm like, hey, you guys drive, I'll just do a mini downwind. They're there at 8 o'clock in the morning. You can go. If it's 30 knots every day, all day, all night, even if
there's still some energy out there.
There's plenty of energy, so
just take a big foil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. It's just hard to it's very easy to get sidetracked.
You get spoiled, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens too. You get spoiled, and then, you know, also you're busy.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to pick and choose.
Yeah.
Either have a hard run where you're working a lot, or, you know, go down,
Yeah.
put your head down, bang out some boards, because I know they're popular in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's getting busy. It's hard to be on the downwind chat and everybody's texting, you know, from the morning.
Bing,
Let's
bing,
go.
bing, bing. Yeah.
Double run today. I'm like, not for me.
Yeah. When did you start shaping? You said you like 2010. You were shipping surfboards. I guess that was in Italy.
No, that was actually
where were you?
England. I
damn.
finished. I still get confused with the school names in English, but I guess it's high school before you go to college.
Yep.
So I finished high school, and halfway through my last year, my mom, she was just going through her, you know, the weekly magazines, like the women magazines. That she went through this article that was college in England that they were starting. It's originally from Australia, and it's called Surf Science and Technology.
Huh.
And so she's like, "Oh, I think you really like this. Take a look at it." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty cool." I mean, and because at that point, I started windsurfing surfing in 2000. So by the time, you know, 2009 came by, I was already into that whole scene for like 9-10 years almost.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that looks cool. So I went to England for 2 weeks. It was like an English course, kind of school exchange deal.
And your English was good by then?
It was all right. I mean, in school, my generation, we started.
Because I don't hear much of an Italian accent from you.
Yeah, but that's
a little bit.
That's my wife. Yeah, she fixed me up the last.
I love how we got this
Piero's
little cat here.
He loves that tension. But yeah, she's the one that fixed my accent. But in my generation in Italy,
there's no fixing an accent, okay?
I guess I have a easy learning the language skill. But yeah, I've been studying English since, you know, elementary school in Italy. It was, you know, my generation. I feel like it was the first that they really started pushing it.
Yeah.
And then so by the time I went to, you know, England, I was okay. We might get a little rain here.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to put a little cover on the?
I don't know.
It might be.
You think it's gonna dump for a second, or
just for a minute?
Well, we could take a break too. I could just put the camera underneath.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna sit in the rain.
Let's see how hard it rains.
Let's see how it rains. That's what happens when you're not in my fake studio.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, so I did that, and then I was in Plymouth, so south of England, on the channel. And I'm talking to, because on the article it showed that the college was there, and I was talking to one of the professors that was doing the English course, and I was telling him what I wanted to do, and he's like, "Oh, forget Plymouth. You got to go to Newquay, like on the north shore of Cornwall." So it's like the very western tip of England. So that's all Cornwall, and then there's the south side and the north side. The north side is where the surf is really good. He's like, "Forget Plymouth. You go there. They have it there." So I went there, and I'm like, it's just all green. Big cliffs, like white sand beaches, blue water, just perfect surf. I'm like, this is something I want to try. And so I went there after high school. So it was my first year of college, was there. And the second semester was, one of the classes was you build your own board. So they had a
That's cool.
Local shaper that was, you know, good friend with one of the professors. So first semester we're gonna study old materials and that kind of stuff, and then the second semester build a board. And I think I went to the shaper like the second week I was there. I'm like, I want to wait. I want to do it now. Like, I don't want to wait, you know, next semester. Like, can I do it? And it's old guy, like he started building boards like in the 60s, like first generation surfers there. And he's like, sure, go buy a blank. Here's where you buy the blank. There's a big warehouse. They have all the materials. He's like, go buy the blank and we can start tomorrow. I'm like, okay. And then he So by the time everybody else in the class was building their first board, I think I was at my 4th or 5th board
Nice.
already. So he taught me all from scratch, like the old school way. You learn to use the planer, hand shaping,
Yeah.
Templates, rockers with the templates, measurements, all kinds of stuff. And then he used to do all resin tints, old school ways of doing building boards.
Yeah.
And then that's how I started. And then when I went back to that year, my parents, so my mom has been a pharmacist her whole life, and then she was kind of upset at her work situation because she was working already like 30 years in the pharmacy. She wasn't getting what she liked, so she's like, screw this, we're gonna get our own pharmacy. And then I decided, I didn't get pushed by my parents at all. It was more like a personal decision. I'm like, okay, well, they're
So they opened up their own pharmacy?
yeah, they
like a family?
Yeah, in Italy, it's limited number for the pharmacy, so you can only buy what's for sale. You can't open a new
Oh,
one.
I see.
It's per citizen. Like if there every 5,000 citizens, you can have a pharmacy. You
Oh,
can
I
just-
see.
So I saw, their decision. I'm like, okay, well, kind of like the old school way of doing things. I go, you just follow what your parents do, like help them out. So
Yeah.
I decided, it's like, okay, I'll finish this year in England, and then I'm gonna go and do pharmacy school in Italy. Not that I regret it, because I would do whatever I did, I would do it again, because all what happened the last 10 years brought me here. So
Yeah.
it's like whatever. So I did pharmacy school, and then I kept building surfboards on the side with a friend that he has his own board brand now, and we're building kite surfboards, because all the production boards are terrible. They're like,
Yeah.
we don't want to ride this. It's like so heavy, so
I feel like it's, even now, like I hear that the kite surfers, like these guys that are doing the freestyle stuff,
yeah.
they're riding boards that are not production boards. They're
Yeah,
like
you can't-
special.
you
Like,
can't-
If
it's-
not, they'd be. I mean, I assume you guys break a ton of boards doing like
Well, it's
big airs. And,
yeah, it's just the way when you do a surfboard for kiting, you don't build it like for the performance. You build it so you don't get warranties, because you get, me, I was just riding strapless. I didn't do big jumps like inverting the kite.
Yeah.
I mean, you still do big jumps, but if you know what you're doing, you're not gonna snap a board every time. But you
Yeah.
give that to the German guy that weighs 200 pounds, and he uses like a twin tip,
Yeah.
and he'll snap it in like 2 sessions.
I mean, put straps on it.
yeah.
Do
So
I've seen
so
it.
they're way too heavy, way too stiff. You get hurt because when you land, you need the flex.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, screw this. We're gonna do our own boards, and that's how I started dealing with, you do a board for me, and then for friends, and then more people, and then
Yeah, it can get out of control pretty easy.
Yeah, then we started doing more, vacuum bagging. That's where I started learning how to do vacuum bagging, constructions, and I didn't really do any foiling. I did learn how to foil kiting back home.
Mm-hmm.
And all my friends used to make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, that's for kooks." I'm like, "Whatever. I'm going out every day. You guys."
Yeah.
And then I came here, started proning and winging, and I was telling my friends, "You guys got to wing." And by then they were all kite foiling. I'm like, "Oh, so I was the kook. Now you're all kite foiling." And they're like, "No, winging is for kooks." I'm like, "Sure, I'll see you guys next."
It's always the same, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, "Yeah, see you guys next year." Sure enough, they're all winging. They threw away all their kite gear.
Yeah. I mean, it happens to. I mean, you see it here.
Yeah.
Here it's crazy that.
Yeah.
I mean, Maui is, for me, it's such a thing, right? Like for everybody, like
Yeah.
water sports, you think, wow,
All
Maui.
the new stuff happens
Like
here.
all the brands and what came out of here, and the
Yeah.
amount of wind,
Yeah.
and the photo shoots, and the riders, and the conditions.
Yeah.
And then I come here and I go kiting. I'm like, there's not really much of a kite scene.
Yeah, there's still
know.
you see Jesse.
No, for sure. There's
And there's Jesse, Patri, they go out. You see them every time Home Keep Us Good, and they can go when there's not too many windsurfers.
Yeah.
They're always there.
I saw an ad for Ozone, Jesse Richmond
Yeah.
winging and just like
Yeah,
ripping.
Yeah.
I was like, shit.
they all just because they do, just because you know them for one sport.
Yeah.
They do-
athletes.
Yeah,
Right?
they go paddle jaws, they go towing,
Yeah.
they go kiting, they do like missions on the South Shore, like crazy, like remote spots. they go downwinding. They do it all.
Yeah.
They just because they they don't promote themselves doing all the sports. Everybody knows how to do everything here.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I came before foiling, right? Because kiteboarding, it was just, there's just so much more substance to it, and like, but now it's like, I went there and, there was some good riders, but it's mainly wingers and actually a lot of windsurfers. Yeah. It was like a Tuesday and there was more windsurfers than there was
kiters and wingers.
It was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, back at home we don't get any windsurfers anymore.
Yeah, now it's very. I mean, my wife, she was here. I mean, she grew up here, so she saw like the boom of windsurfing.
Yeah,
it's nothing like that anymore, but there's still like the core group. Like,
does she still windsurf?
Not too much with the kids now, but she did. The last Aloha Classic was the first time she didn't participate.
Yeah.
But the year before, she did participate, and every time she been in it, she was in the final. So she's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like semi-final, final. She's getting back to it now, trying to give her a little more time.
Because we were having a barbecue at Art's place.
Yeah.
We were all hanging out. Got a little bit out of control. Thanks, Roy.
The tequila started flowing a little too much.
And I walk up and I'm like, I know Tatiana. I met her back in Cabarete in 2012, 13 or something, doing this butterfly event. So it was kind of cool. I had no idea that there was this connection, such a small water sports world, right?
Yeah, she did that for a while. Yeah, and then she went all over the world. Yeah, and that was pretty crazy. And now when the winging happened, she's like, oh, this is the real butterfly effect. Like, because we were at Kanaha, and you see all these wings, like, that's like all butterflies, like, we got to do it again. Yeah. So who knows, maybe we'll
bring it back.
That'd
be cool.
Be 300 girls winging.
That was fun. I used to go to, they used to do like a downwinder, and I'd go at the end in Encuentro and I'd put my harness on and I'd help the girls would come in, I'd grab their kite and I'd land it. I landed 50 kites in a row. Yeah. It was super fun. And we also got to sneak in the downwinder. Like, the guys weren't allowed to participate, so we'd sneak a downwinder in real quick, like before them, and then land there, and then so we felt like we were part of the event. Yeah, no, a bunch of girls, who doesn't want to be part of that.
I know, I did the first event. I helped her here. So I went back and since we met, I was going back and forth. Yeah. A bunch. We're lucky enough to have friends that work at United that offered us, the standby flying.
Oh, that's cool.
Thing.
Stressful, but cool.
Yeah, and it was really the only way I could have done it. There's no way you can spend like $1,500 every other month.
Yeah. For sure.
And so I helped her with an event. It was like crazy, like 400 girls. It was like crazy. A 40 knots day. They're all using these 14-foot stand-ups, and they come in at Kanaha, and boards are flying everywhere, and so you just help them out. And then it's funny because
I forgot. Yeah, it's like kayaks and paddleboards and kites and windsurfers and now wingers or whatever it would be, right?
So it's crazy, and then
downwind foilers.
Yeah. We definitely want. She wants to do it again for sure.
We have no girls downwind foiling in Puerto Rico yet.
Yeah. Well, here it's just Gabby. There's a few girls. It's Gabby, Tomoko, Paige, Devin, Cynthia. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone. There's a few girls. Yeah. More than Oahu. Oahu, I think there's only maybe one girl that does it. But yeah, no, they got the girls team going here for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, what a scene, which is super fun.
It's just crazy. You see everything here like 2 or 3 years before people even know something. Like the downwind.
I mean, you were showing me a board when I got to your house. Yeah. You showed me a board, and you're like, "Oh, look at this." I'm like, "The shape looks wild." Yeah. I'm gonna have to go in there with the camera and take some pictures. Yeah. Put it up on the YouTube. Like, there's some.
Yeah, and I'll send you some
you've
stuff.
You've got so many cool boards in there, So it's really cool. And you're like, "Yeah, I made that like 3-4 years ago." I'm like, "Man, I didn't even hear about." Downwind foiling, like it wasn't a thing. Like, I had no idea,
Yeah, like before it was just, now they call it the A team, because before it was, it was gnarly. You go on this 5-foot board, They didn't have downwind boards. They would just go with their stand-up foil that they would use in the waves.
Yeah.
Go out there and suffer, try to make it work. And so it wasn't like, oh yeah, let's go downwind. It was only like the top, like Mark. Mark was one of the first guys. Dave Kalama. Like it was like a handful of guys after Kai started the whole thing.
Yeah.
Kai and the Spencer brothers, Connor, I don't know if he ever got into, maybe he did a little bit, Connor Baxter and Zane, but it wasn't like something that everybody could just, I'm gonna go learn how to downwind, because like I tried with the old, that's how I started, because I would see Jeremy, I was teaching wing foiling at the harbor, and I would see Jeremy Riggs do the flat water practice. And I'm like, that kind of looks interesting. And I was like...
And that was with a foil at that point?
Yeah. They were doing... That was... that must have been like maybe, 4 years ago or something.
Yeah, I talked to Jeremy in the parking lot. And he's like, man, I've been doing this paddle, like, what is it, every Tuesday or something?
Every Tuesday. Almost every Tuesday,
It's like 3 years.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday. And I'm like, wow, that is wild. And I guess he doesn't go to every single one.
Yeah, but people know...
And now it's just a gathering of people.
Yeah, sometimes, like, you don't even...
I've got to go.
Yeah.
I got to go on this Tuesday.
We should go.
I could definitely learn something.
Because sometimes like he doesn't post it. He usually posts it on his Instagram, but sometimes you just go and then somebody will be there.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like, you tell people what you think you're doing, and then they share what they think they're doing, and it's so you'll always learn something.
That's kind of cool.
But yeah, that's how I saw it, and I was just winging and proning at the time, and I just learned how to do the beach starts with the prone. Mm-hmm. So I thought, I was like, I was the cool guy. I'm like, I can beach start. I can do that. It looks easy. And I asked Mark. I was like, Mark, because I was working with Mark already. I was helping him building his boards. I was like, Mark, I want to try stand-up foil, the flat water. Can I borrow your board? Because I never stand up foil, like nothing. I was just proning. And he gives me his board. He's like, hey, just just beware. It's not. You might not have a good time. I'm like, it's gonna be fine. I got this.
I can beach start.
I can do this. And he gives me his 6'4" by, I think it was like 23 or 24 downwind board, and that was the downwind board at the time. Like, I think the Barracuda
progressive shape.
I think the Barracudas just came out. Well, they didn't even like Jeremy had a Barracuda, Dave had a Barracuda. It's like a few custom. Mm-hmm. And it was just that year that people outside of Hawaii, they probably didn't even know about the Barracuda yet, but we see it.
Yeah.
Here's Giuseppe with his bike.
Hello.
Giuseppe, watch out, go to mommy.
That's a cool bike.
I know it's electric and boost up. And
it's electric?
Yeah, and it boosts up.
No way.
Yeah, and it goes, boosts ups, and it boosts ups and right here, and it's like a belt, and it goes like, bam, right off.
Where's the battery? What do you mean it's electric?
But electric doesn't need a battery.
Oh, no? You're the battery.
Huh?
Are you the battery?
No.
No.
Giuseppe, vai dalla mamma per favore. Grazie.
How old is he?
He's 4.
Damn. No way.
Yeah.
Riding a bike like that?
Yeah, we started with the Woom bikes. We just got that yesterday because he outgrew his Woom bike.
Damn, he's so good.
Yeah, he learned a lot this last year. But yeah, so Mark's board.
So some context, like who's Mark?
Mark Rappelhorst happens to be my neighbor across the street, and that
was an accident.
Well, I didn't know. Like, I moved here. This is Toddy's mom's property. Yeah. So when I moved here, we're staying in the studio, and Toddy was telling me, our neighbor across the street, he used to have a ding repair shop, Ding King, and because I didn't know, like I always fix my own boards.
Is Mark the Ding King?
He was Ding King.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then
because I had my ex-business partner Mickey from Playa Carmen. Mm-hmm. I met up with him because he lives here now, and we went winging. Mm-hmm. He had a Ding King wingboard.
Oh yeah. So Mark had Ding King, and then he started SIC, kind of parallel, like use the shop for SIC and then for ding repairs.
Yeah.
And then he went on, SIC became, one of the, like all the people that will come here for crossings, they will get boards from Mark. Like all the pro riders, they had boards from Mark. All the winners had Mark's boards. And so that was like the 17-foot unlimited.
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to win, you had to get one of Mark's boards. And then...
but SIC was his, or?
It was his. He started it.
Damn.
He started... he was the first to do...
So I guess that was before the Ding King.
No, I think it was about... Like because he had the shop. So the thing, you have your shop.
I don't want to turn this into a Mark podcast, but it's very interesting that that's
No, it's super. It's crazy. Like so you have a shop, right? And you, once you get a shop, you need to stay busy because you gotta pay rent. So, you build your boards, but then ding repairs it's a good flow of work.
I hate repairing boards.
Yeah, me too. I'd rather build a new one than fix it. But it's a good way of keeping the shop going because you can, and you building a board and
you can do it simultaneously.
Yeah, you mix your resin for the board and then you use whatever's left. You do your ding repair.
Yeah.
And here comes Giuseppe again. So then he SIC grew bigger. And he still had both. And then he started doing production, all that. And then I think eventually he sold SIC to some corporation. And then they kept him as a designer. So he's still involved with SIC.
Yeah.
And he sold the
yeah, because I saw that recently. Like some of his older downwind boards don't say anything.
Yeah.
And then now they've got an SIC on the side.
Yeah, because first when he started the foiling customs, it was Flying Dutchman. And then... but he was still designing for SIC at the same time, and then I think to keep it all flow the same, then it's all SIC now.
Well, it makes sense.
The customs and the production, and then he sold the ding repair shop to this other guy named Andres, and then he started doing the Ding King foilboards.
Okay, so that must be what I wrote. Yeah. And
Toddy was telling me like, our neighbor, he's Ding King and. He has a stand-up. He builds stand-up boards. I'm like, oh, that's cool. But it's not like, oh, let me go knock at his door. Like everybody here on Maui is pretty. They kind of
low key.
Yeah, low key. Like I do my thing, you do your thing, which is very different from like the way I grew up. Like in Italy, when you have your group of friends, like you're always hanging out together. You're always doing dinners. Here it's more like, you see people at the beach and it's cool, but. Okay, bye, I gotta go home. I gotta do my stuff. You do your things, but
I think it's because you're getting older. Everyone has family.
Yeah, that too. But so then I was like, oh, cool. And then I was like, that's cool, but I never met him. And then one day we're out there, and he's trimming his coconut trees, and he's like, oh, do you want coconuts? I'm like, sure, why not? And the kids love it. And well, actually, no. When I start working with him, I don't think Giuseppe was even born yet. But I was like, yeah, Toddy loves coconuts. We go there, and he's like, oh, are you still working at... Because I was working at Quattro when I first moved here. Mm-hmm. I was like sanding, boxing, shaping after the machine, would mill the boards. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And then I stopped because I had to do my internship to transfer my pharmacy degree over. But he asked me, he's like, oh, are you still working at Quattro? I need some help sanding. I'm like, yeah, I'm not working there. I'm definitely down, like, to, keep building boards. Because I was just, like, into doing the pharmacy thing. I wasn't building any boards. I was like, I kind of miss it. So when he said that, I was like, sure. I'm like, I can meet you at the shop. Where's the shop? And he's like, oh, it's right here. I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, I just walk down. Like, tomorrow I'll show you. I'm like, sure enough. Started working with him. Super thankful for it because here comes Giuseppe again, not a lap.
That's super cool that it's
right. Yeah, I mean, it's insane, and then I think I got really lucky with the people I met in this industry because it's not easy to find someone that's really open and welcoming.
Yeah,
and everybody's
it's also secret.
Yeah.
Right. How do you build your box versus that person builds their box, and especially in this like
this time.
I mean,
now.
it's this time now with foiling, it's growing so fast.
Yeah.
And people are demanding so much.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like trying to keep a trade secret.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got lucky because Mark, you know, I feel like all the two main figures was, you know, that first shaper I worked with in England, Chris Jones. You know, he was old. You know, he still loved to build boards, but he's like, I need to pass this on to somebody. And he saw my passion, and he's like, told me everything.
Yeah.
He didn't keep any secrets. And then go to Mark, and he's just pretty much doing, you know, his custom boards for fun. He's not like, he's built his brand. He you know, he's accomplished his career, so he's like just for fun. And he's same thing. He saw my passion, and he just showed me, like, fully opens. I go, here's the shop. This is how we do this. This is how we do that. Blah blah blah. And I learned a lot.
That's cool.
From him, because he used to build. All he used to do was composites, like, you know, vacuum bagging, molds, all kinds of weird things. And we gotta do a podcast with Giuseppe next.
I think it's awesome.
So he, you know, I learned a lot on that side from him, because all my knowledge on composites was from just me trying, well, with my friend. We're just like watching YouTube and testing out, see how things work. So super thankful for Mark, because I wouldn't be here without him. And then he was, when I had a hard time with my pharmacy job, you know, I would meet him once a week. We're building a board together once a week, and he, you know, I was always telling him like how frustrated I was, and like I missed being in the water and doing my own things. And he's like, well, if you want, like, you can build my boards. You know, I'll give you the file. You can learn how to use the CNC machine, and, you know, you take it from there, do everything. I'll pay you this much, and then you can do your own stuff. And, you know, I have orders, and then I kind of, you know, you add up the numbers. I'm like, oh, I can probably make it work.
That's cool.
And now, here I am now. Like,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been possible without Mark. So I'm really thankful for it. Like,
yeah, the CNC machine must change.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. You can't.
Like how fast you can. I mean, do you still? I mean, I assume you still use a planer, or no?
No,
or you're sanding.
Once you do the machine, you're pretty much like you finish shaping. You know, because once it comes out of the machine, it has these grooves from the router bit.
Yeah.
So you're just flattening those. I mean, you still need to.
And you're like refining.
Yeah,
the
you're
shape.
refining everything. Make sure everything is even. You don't. I mean, you still need to be able. You need to be a shaper in order to do that. It's not like, oh,
the machine does everything.
The machine does it, and it's done. Like, you still need to have experience, but it's way easier, and it's more like.
Do you ever shape without the CNC?
Sometimes I'll do, like, if I'm doing like.
Or
like
you'll get like a base model out, and then, you know.
No, I try to do, even if I like the wingboard we tried yesterday. Like, I'd rather do it, even if it comes out like it doesn't work. Yeah. I'd rather do it with the machine, so I have the file. Yeah. And the great thing of the machine is you have
when you do it by hand, you can't
replicate it. Yeah, you can do a one-off. Like, I'll do it, like, I built Toddy like a twin fin surfboard for Mother's Day, and that's fine. I like to hand shape. Yeah. It's not critical. It's like whatever. It's like once a one-off. But yeah, if I'm trying to do something, I'd rather do it with the program. And then, so you do it with the program, you build it, you try it, and then you're like, okay, I like this, I didn't like that. And then you make a new file, and you keep what you like, and you change what you didn't like, and then you try it again, and then you're like, okay, there's still something I don't like. So you keep the two things you like, and you add on. So it's better to.
It's like a process of elimination.
Yeah,
kind of
it's
thing.
better to, even if you do a one-off on something that you're planning on developing, you just do it with the computer, so you have a reference of what works and what doesn't. So if you're doing something else from scratch, you're like, okay, let me go back and look at that file that was that terrible board that took me 20 minutes to get up on foil, and I just wanted to slam the paddle into and snap it in half. So I don't want to do that again. So it's you know,
I feel like you're speaking from experience.
yeah. Well, that's how, because, you know, I went through that first time with Jeremy, and I was so humbled because I'm like, I couldn't even paddle straight. I'm like, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, challenge accepted. I'm gonna learn this now. Like, and I took Mark's board, did a sugar run that usually takes 20 minutes. Took me almost 3 hours. I drifted out like a mile and a half offshore because didn't know what I was doing. Took me 45 minutes paddling in the wind to get to shore. And then, it's just, then from there, I started building my first board. You know, the Barracudas were around, so I did like narrower. I think it was like a 710, 711 by 19. All of a sudden, now I can get up on foot. I'm like, okay, great. And then you go from there, and you just, I just learn from, I have an idea, I make it, and, you know, we're 5 minutes away from Maliko. Like, Toddy, come pick me up. I'll eventually get there.
Yeah.
And it's just all frustration based, and, you know, from the knowledge I have from all these years of doing surfboards, and you know, the hydrodynamics, it kind of it all comes from when I learned from the first shaper. You know, he really explained to me how all the curves work, and it all translates to this. It just depends. You just need to know what you're looking for and what can give you that. And then it's a blend, because we're going slow and accelerating, and then we're going to be touching down at high speed. So you got to take two things. It's not like,
surfboards are different because you're on,
Yeah.
you're using the rail, you're like,
Yeah.
you're always on the water,
Yeah.
right? They're so powered up.
Oh, surfboards, like,
Right?
surfboards is so hard to get a good surfboard, like especially a high performance shortboard to perform. It's like, even, you know, I still work at Quattro, and I'm their sander, and even I'll sand the board and have one of their team riders go and tries it, and they're like, oh, the edge was like ½ inch too far. They didn't like it, and then we retune it. It's like very like detailed. Even just because you shape a board and the file is good, doesn't mean it's gonna be always the same. Even just the sanding can change it. So you can take all the curves, like in the rail, you can use that knowledge into understanding how you know, the board is gonna react when you touch down or whatever, because it's gonna be a similar interaction with the water.
Yeah. That's wild.
But there's no way of knowing unless you do it yourself and go out there and get frustrated.
I'm envious of people that can, like, get on a board and then iterate what they feel from it, you know, where the drag is or where the release is, how fast it's going, like, to process all of that, like, information on different conditions, right? And then try to tell some, like, I don't know, people test your boards, you test your boards, or whoever you've got, you know, or you trust yourself, right?
Well, but
I guess you're making tester,
but it's good. It's good.
It's hard.
It's hard. You need to, like, some people, you know, you'll give them a board.
I'm not. I wish I was good at it. I test all these things. Like, I've ridden 8 of your boards or something. You know, I've been on 7, 8 different foils since I've been here, and you know, there are differences, but it's hard to put into words, like,
what you feel
and what the speed ranges are, and you know, there's so much going on. Also, you're like, you know, you're in your own world, you're with a group, so there's all these different moods and stuff. It's and I'm like in Maui, so I'm all excited, so it's hard to, like, you know, I tried your wingboard, I'm like, it feels good, it released fast, it was fun, it was light on your feet, like,
it's some people,
like, I don't know what people are looking for, like, what can you say?
Some people are like Kane, for example, like, you know, you start talking foils to Kane and you're like, okay, lost.
I was like, holy crap, like, what he's talking about is just on a whole, like, he's on a whole different level.
But he's like a master of his craft, you know. He's like, he knows, you try a foil and then you know exactly, like, what to shim, what to change. I'm like I went back on Axis from, I was riding an AFS Pure 800, and I went on the Axis foils, and they asked me, like, oh, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know what you guys did, but whatever you did, you fixed all the problems I had with my AFS, so I'm sold. I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
But I can't tell, like, oh, it's the angle. I'm like, I don't
Well,
know.
you know
but
what
it
feels
works.
good.
Yeah.
Right.
But some, you give that to Kane and he tells you, oh, it's because of this, because of that.
Yeah.
And with the boards, it's the same. Like some people would just, you give him a board and they're like, oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but I need more. Like,
Yeah.
was it really, like, what would you change? Like, I need that like, I don't care if you tell me, oh, this board is terrible. Like, it's okay. Tell me. I don't care. Like, it's fine. Like,
But it's hard. Sometimes I use the same board, had a great session, used the same board again, had a horrible session.
Yeah.
And then where does it lie?
Yeah. It's hard. Like here too, it's hard because
you got to put it through some paces.
Yeah. Even if you do 2 Maliko runs here, you do your first. Let's say you start at Maliko at 1 o'clock. You do your first run. By the time you do your second run, it's gonna be a couple hours at least. So the tide has changed, the wind has changed.
Yeah.
Maybe some swell creeped in. Like if it's the winter time, sometimes, it's.
Maybe you're a little bit more tired.
Yeah, you're tired, and it changes, so it's hard. Sometimes, you do 2 runs, same gear, and your second run is great. Your first run was terrible. So if I'm testing something, I try to do really short. I'll just go on Baldwin. It's not even a run. It's just there's wind, there's no wind chop, and I just walk up the beach and.
Yeah.
So it's like within 5 minutes, if I need to change something, I try, come in, move the foil, try again, or change the tail and try again. It's more controlled, but it's hard to get. Like I have Guido, he's riding my boards. He's been riding my board since last year, and he's a good reference because he remembers the first boards and now how we evolved, and so he's really good reference, but he's also really young and really good and really strong. So I'm like, okay, I need someone else that's not as good, because you can't just base your.
Yeah, I mean, when you can flat water paddle up 700 on a, on a small 80-liter board, 90-liter board, then you're like,
Yeah, it's like, I mean.
That's just pure power and talent.
Yeah, so it's good to have, feedback from everybody, and that's why. It's been really fun to have you guys here because, Roy, Walt, Gio, Mickey, and you, and, like, oh, you try everything. If you hate it, tell me. I don't care. Like, I want to know. If you hate it, tell me, like, why, and I'll fix it.
Yes.
Even I get accustomed to what I've been riding, and I think it's good, because I'm like, oh, works for me. But it's nice to have the feedback.
Yeah, it's like it's progressing so fast, right? So how do you, like, I saw a board you made a long time ago. It looks wild. Like flagged out decks and like super pin tail, like massive rocker, volume in the nose. Like you've been going through some stuff. Like how many boards have you made? Let's just say downwind boards, like only downwind boards.
Different designs. I mean, this probably. So if that one, we call it version 1. That was
actually the first?
That was the first. Well, I was gonna do a pro. I was like, I don't want to. That's before the flat water. I was like, I'm just gonna pro downwind.
Okay.
That lasted like a week because you realize like, oh no, I'm not.
That's a lot of work.
So then I went with the Jeremy's thing, and I made another version. It was a 710. And it didn't have the deck kind of like sticking out the rail, but it had the wing, like a winger on the rail, because I'm like, I want it wide on the tail so I have stability, and then I'm gonna do a winger and pull in the tail.
Yeah.
And then realized that was good, but it wasn't like the most efficient, like flowing through the water. So then and then when that was right about when all the dragonflies started to come out, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try the round bottom. So then I went from the 710, I made a 610, because I'm like, oh, the round bottom is gonna be efficient. I'm gonna go 610, full round bottom, full round tail. I think I did like 2 inches deck concave, like the race stand-ups. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be sick. Stepped on it, terrible. I'm like, this is no go. Don't do this again, ever again. So that's why I keep that file, like, don't do that. Cancel. I actually ended up giving that board to Guido, and he flat watered like the lift 120 with it. I was like, you're an animal, whatever, use it. that was his first downwind board. He learned how to downwind on that, and then I gave him then I made him a new board. So then from that I went back to 8 foot and like wide tail with some like a tail, like a cutout in the tail, because I'm like, I like the volume in the, because I'll jump on like a Kalama here and there at the flat water. And I didn't like how I had to stand forward to paddle and then slowly move back, because if you stood where you had to foil, you didn't have enough volume on the tail.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I like, because I'm not good, right? So I'm thinking, how can I make it easy? Like, I don't want to go out there, I'll go out there once a week because I'm working at the pharmacy. I don't want to be frustrating. I want to go out there, make it easy. And so I was like, I like volume on the tail because I like to stand. I want to stand where I foil while I'm paddling. I don't want to move.
Yeah.
Let's take
too much adjustment.
All the things that can go wrong, let's try to eliminate it, right? So then we did, a big wide tail, big chines, and it worked okay. It was fine. It was a little tippy. And then talking to Elliot, we do downwinds. You always, it's an hour drive. It's like a half-hour drive back. You always talking. It's like just full talk to the max, right?
Downwind shuttles are like a podcast every single time.
It's like the most precious time. Like you get some gems in there. But he was like, that blackboard you saw, that first one, because he saw Kane Flatwater starting that thing. And he kept telling me, oh, that board had something that was special. I'm like, so it made me thinking, and I'm like, okay, well, let's, take that file that I have and then put that with the new file, just put it together, see what I like, what I don't like, blah, blah, blah. And then this came out, and because I saw that's a 9.4 by 16, and I saw, everything was going longer. I'm like, whatever, I'll try this longer stuff. Because at the time I was using that AFS, and I would go out with my 8-foot board and take 10 minutes to get up. Everybody's gone. I'm like, this is not fun. Like, I don't want to struggle. I want to go out there, get up with everybody, get to the hardboard everybody. Nobody's waiting for me.
Yeah.
So then.
But there's also like, do you want to be on a big foil and a smaller board, or do you want to be on a small foil?
Yeah.
Then you need a little bit more.
Yeah, that's
board
exactly.
speed. So there's like.
That's exactly, because I was like, I wasn't going as often as a lot of people go, because of family and work. But I'm like, when I go, I don't want to be on a monster foil. That's not fun. Like, you've done the Maliko run. You need something fast. Otherwise, you're just miserable. Like, veering off everything because you just can't keep up with it. And then you see everybody just go away.
That's the worst.
So I'm like, I want to ride my small foil, but I don't train enough to be able to pop up on a small board. So here's my solution, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I made this 9.4. And Mark looks at it and he's like, are you going to be able to stand on it? I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. Because it's like 16-inch wide.
Yeah.
And then we go try it, and I'm just mind blown. I'm like, whoa.
Was that the same? Because the first board I used here, that's the first Maliko run. Yeah. Same as this board, right?
That's the original one. That's the first 9.4 I made. And then Guido, I was like, Guido, you got to try this. We're piling out Maliko. He's already in. He decided, after last summer, he decided, I'm going to do the races next year. And then he used to do a lot of mountain bike racing. So he's got the race, the focus, and he's like, I'm going to do the races. I'm like, so he's already, I'm on a flatwater Maliko, right inside the bay, pump out. He doesn't make it easy for himself. So then I was like, okay, well, I was like, hey, Guido, jump on this thing. Let's try it. With my AFS, like, it's still like I couldn't flat water. And we're halfway through Maliko, and you see, like, once you get to the last half of Maliko before you get out of the bay, it's the water is all messy. Like, you got stuff coming at you sideways. And he jumps on the board, 10 strokes, he's up foiling, pumping, screaming. He's like, what? Like, he turns around, he's like, you gotta make me one of these. I'm like, okay. So I made him one. That weekend we went to the harbor flatwater, and he flatwater started 700, like in 10 strokes. Yeah. And he uses he rides F4 and it's a wing foil, so there's no low end. It's not even in the chart. It's like, we don't care, you got the wing, these things go fast.
Yeah.
Low end we don't need. And he just popped it up.
Crazy.
And then so
It needs a lot of speed.
and then so from there we're like, all right, it's got something in here. And
Yeah, the first day I tried it, it was like,
it's different.
I mean, new conditions,
Yeah.
new place. I was super excited. I had this new longboard, and I was like, and I went like this, and it was just like,
punch through.
I was like, I was going too fast. I was smashing the swell
Yeah.
in front of
yeah,
me.
yeah. I had the
Like,
guys. I had
but there's different swell out there, right? There's these big, there was a little bit of a ground swell, which
Yeah.
are these big things, and then there's these tiny wind swell, and I was conflicted on, because I can't, with my boards, they're 8 foot, 7'4", I can't get the ground swell.
Yeah.
And then I quickly realized, after like, 10 attempts, I was like outrunning it, smashing, it was just too fast.
Yeah.
Like I was not used to it. I was like, this is weird, because normally it takes me so long to get up on foil. And then I was able to grab these big, like fat ground swell,
And
like,
get
and you're just
speed.
like, you get speed, and then you're like, boop, you're up on foil. It was a
Yeah.
totally different experience for me
Yeah.
on being, I've never been on anything over 8 foot.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Right?
that's the same thing. A lot of guys on a wall.
No one told me anything.
Yeah, we didn't. We just like, oh, there you go. Good friends, right? Oh, just go figure it
Wow,
out.
I mean, you figured it out, right?
But yeah, no, that's what a lot of guys, on Oahu, they're like, oh, I keep running into the little bumps. I'm like, oh, forget the little bumps, just go for the big ones.
Yeah.
Because the idea, well, first, it started like, I want to use my small foil, make it easy, right? And I was already thinking, I want to do the races. I knew the starts were hard. I'm like, by the end of the summer or before the races, I want to be able to flat water my AFS 800 easy. So in my head, I'm like, I need board speed, as much board speed as I can. I need the board to be tracking because I need to focus just on power. I
Yeah.
can be like worrying about the board doing this. And then, yeah, it turns out, it's too fast if you're not used to it.
Yeah.
You run into the little bumps.
Yeah.
And then now,
Kind of crazy.
yeah, so, and then,
For Kihei, that's crazy,
for
because they're all
Kihei,
little
you
bumps.
you don't need that for Kihei,
You
but
just like blow through everything.
yeah, so it's more, but for Guido, for the races, he's like,
Yeah.
I want something that, because it's, you're sitting on the board, to blow the horn, you got to get up and go. So
Go.
there's no,
You're not waiting for anything.
yeah, so you got to be able to pretty much, well, it's harder than flat water starting because
You're in troughs and shit.
yeah, so he loved it for that. And then I'm using whatever I learned from this. I'm trying to go shorter and make the shortest stuff efficient, because foils are getting easier. Like from last year, the foils have gone like,
Yeah.
we thought last year like, oh, this is great, this is it. And then this year it's like, oh, forget last year's foil, like.
It's crazy.
And then you see stuff that's coming out and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of low end that they've got in these
Yeah.
small foils is crazy.
So you don't, if you're going for everyday run, you don't really need a 9.4, but it's like a 9-foot board, like close to 9 foot, it'll make your life a lot easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a really good learning curve, especially with, the interest growing, more people ordering boards, and, it's not just my board and Guido's board. It's like you get, the 15-year-old boy that wants a board, you do a smaller, you got to adjust, you do sizes that I wouldn't have done for myself because
Yeah.
it's not my size. And then you learn and you get the feedback from them. And
Well, size is one thing, right? But
yeah,
you can make
Yeah.
a 9.4 by 16 and it might not work,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's the shape has a
It's not,
whole
yeah,
lot
it's not
to do
just
with it.
and a lot of,
Specs are, like that's all I was looking at, because I'm thinking, I'm like, damn, I want a board. Like I tried Mickey's board.
Yeah.
Mickey has your board. It's 100 liters, so it's a little bit smaller than what I'm typically used to. But it's like 8 liters less.
yeah,
But it paddled up great. It
Yeah.
felt light. It felt like I could get it up really easy. I felt like the tail was probably sinking a little bit more than what I'm used to, so I had to like adjust my
Yeah.
stance a bit for that literage. And so I'm just thinking straight specs. I'm like, okay, what do I want? I'm like, okay, I want an 8.4 by 17. I was like, this is 108 liters or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I'm just making up this shit in my
yeah,
head.
yeah.
And then I get here and I'm riding, a 9.4, an 8.11, 7.10, an 8 foot, right? I'm
Yeah.
riding all these different things that are they're all shaped, the tails are all just a little bit different. Like you've got some different stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I don't want an 8.4 anymore, you know, that I want an 8-footer or an 8.2 or something.
Yeah.
Like there's something that's...
Yeah, because numbers only mean so
also,
much.
I want one board.
Yeah, to do everything.
Right? Like in an ideal world, like everybody,
yeah,
you want multiple. Yeah. Like they're for different things.
Yeah, it depends. Like, you know, if you're not...
like, I'm not racing.
Yeah, like Roy and, Roy and Gio, you know, because after I shipped Mickey's board in Puerto Rico, they're like, oh, we want a board for when we come to Hawaii.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, make me an 8-foot. I'm like, are you guys doing the races? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, then I was like, okay, you want a Puerto Rico board or you want a board for here for the races? Because that's two separate, like I can make you your Puerto Rico board, it's gonna work here, but you're not gonna get up as easy as the 9-foot, because if you're racing, if you're racing just to participate, fine. But if you're racing trying to, even if you're not winning, but you're trying to do your best, you're gonna be upset when they blow the horn, everybody's gone, and you're there like swearing, you're like, freaking Frank made me this piece of shit.
Yeah, because it's Frank's fault.
I'm like, so I convinced them. They're like, oh, but how are you gonna pump? I'm like, look, I use my 9.4 at Caja and I pump back to the lineup. It's not the number, it's how you do it. Like if it's balanced, you can still pump it. So I convinced them, and then I was worried. I'm like, oh no, maybe I let's put this down. I was like, oh, maybe I hope they're gonna like it, whatever. And then, they came and picked up their board the first day they were here, went out for a run, and they're all texting me like, oh, this is sick. I'm like, yeah, see, like, then if you want a board for Kihei or like little, short runs, it's different, but yeah. It's not just a number. I had people, they're like, oh, I can't ride a 16-inch wide board. I'm like, well, have you ever tried it? They're like, no. I'm like, try it. I don't care if you tell me you hated it. Just, I'm giving you the opportunity to try something.
Yeah.
Like I'm down. Like, if you tell me...
That's my favorite thing.
Try everything. The more you can try, the better. You try new foils, new boards, new paddles, everything. And then, sure enough, they tried. It's like, oh, I never thought I could stand on a 16-inch wide board. I'm like, yeah, because it's not just, don't just look at the numbers.
Well, it's the same with foils too. Everyone's like, oh, I can't ride a 680.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my God, it's like it's too much foil sometimes. You're like, that's crazy. It's too slow.
Yeah. Yeah. The same with the Axis, guys. They gave me a few foils for the races, because we were collaborating for building boards for some of their team riders. As Adrian was here a month before the races, and they were doing some shooting, and they saw Pace, this Maui boy. I made him a board, and then he just joined the Axis team like right after, and they're looking at his board. And then, Adrian's a good friend with Mark. They've met each other here, 40 years ago when they first came.
Mark
here.
sells some Axis, right?
Yeah, he's like the dealer. He's the Axis guy from Maui. So Adrian, came and talked to me. He's like, oh, he's been around boards for 40 years. He's like, I see something. When I see something that, like, I've never seen something like this before. Like, I just want to tell you, just telling you, you're doing a really good job. I'm like, oh, that's, hearing that from somebody like him, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm doing something right. It's not just me. And then he's like, oh, hey, do you think you can do a couple of boards for our team riders that are coming over for the races? I'm like, sure. And then, they gave me, some foils to try. They gave me a 600. I'm like,
did you have to make it bright red?
Yeah, it was like red and white. We decided. I showed them like the two-tone, and then they're like, "Oh, let's do white and red." I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's gonna be sick," and they loved it. And but yeah, they gave me a 600. I'm like, "There's no way I can ride a 600." And then I tried it. I'm like, "Wow!" Like, foils have gone way. They got so good. They're so easy. Numbers don't mean anything. It's not. Numbers don't mean anything. Yeah. You just gotta try it, and you'd be surprised.
It's it's so hard as like being a shop and having different brands and stuff, and then trying to tell people what they want. But a lot of people come they like same when you make somebody a board. They come to you like, I want this. And you're like, but I'm telling you that I know what I'm making, and I know what you need.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
that's exactly
and
what.
that's. I mean, for a shaper, it's probably easier, you know, because you're like,
Yeah,
you're the creator.
It's hard sometimes, but it's
For a shop, it's different. I'm
Yeah.
just a salesman,
yeah,
right? So I'm trying to sell them on
yeah.
something is what they think,
Yeah,
right?
and I'm like that. Like when I'm fixated on something, I'm like, I want to get this. I'll go to the shop,
Yeah, and you're telling them.
and the guys tell me no, but like I really want that. Like I'm like, this is what I want. And yeah, it's like I play golf too. Like, you know, you go to the golf shop and there's all these, you know, different clubs, and you wanna play the clubs the pro use because they look like slick, and you're like,
Yeah.
I want that, and the guy's like, no, you don't. But no, but I really like it. And they're like, no, you're not gonna like it. It's like, oh, whatever, I'll be able to, you know, use it. And then you buy it and you go play golf and you suck at it because you're not, you know,
You're not at the level. Or,
you're not Tiger Woods, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, maybe I should have listened to the guy. And the same with foiling. It's like,
Yeah.
I want.
Yeah, people come into the shop, they're like, I've done all my research, and my friend said that I
Yeah,
should get
that's the
this. And you're
best.
like, who's your friend?
That's the best. Yeah, my friend said that. I'm like, okay, does your friend have a shop and knows what he's doing? Because maybe not.
It's funny.
But
yeah.
but yeah, it's the same. Like I was able to convince, you know, Roy and
Gio.
I'm like, listen, you're coming here for the races. Make your life easy. It's gonna be, you know, especially for Gio, it's his first time here. Like Roy came last year, so he kind of knew a little bit. But yeah, it's just fun.
Man, Gio's put in
Some
so
hours.
much time. Like that's pretty much his main focus. It's a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, I see
sometimes
his
it's
videos. With,
sometimes too much.
yeah, I see his
you know.
videos like no wind, like with the 680. I'm like, oh man, you're
Yeah, he's a beast.
next level.
Yeah, he's crazy. It's crazy how much he's progressed and what kind of focus he's put into it. And
Yeah,
how he's just so
yeah.
he's
Yep.
so foil brained. It's
Yeah.
insane.
And he tries all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
It's good.
Always talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everyone's got their own opinion, and you know, everyone thinks they're right.
Yeah. Until you,
You know.
try it.
Yeah.
You just gotta try for yourself. It's not.
That's why I like trying all these different foils and stuff, because I mean, I have no idea.
When you have to, because you know.
Also, yeah.
You can be like.
And I love, yeah, I also like, I like being a beginner.
Yeah.
You know, when I feel all honed in and like perfect, it's where I feel like I'm like, that's where it's starting to get boring.
Yeah.
Because I'm not on my toes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's not like I'm bored out there. Like I
Yeah.
know it all. Like Kihei yesterday, probably one of my coolest, most
Yeah.
aggressive runs that I've had. You know, trying to like turn the board over and like do some weird angles and 3-wave back. You know, 360 turn. You're just doing all these different things because I feel like
you gotta keep it interesting,
fresh
yeah.
and keep it, you know, like on the edge of,
Yeah.
you know, breaching. You know.
Yeah. You're like
on the edge of like
sketchy.
shit.
Yeah,
Scared.
that's how we get the winter runs here. You know, you go out sometimes and, you know, it's like maybe 10-foot north swell.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
and,
wild. Yeah.
And you know, you drive up from the harbor, you meet at the harbor, and you drive up past Ho'okipa and you see, you know, it's like mast and a half, like all the windsurfers are out, and you're like, oh, it can be interesting. And you paddle out Malika and you see like houses coming at you. You're like, okay, oh, this will be
Scary.
something, but
Yeah.
it's always learning.
Yeah.
It's good.
And then looking at your boards, they're so well crafted.
Yeah,
Like-
that was
Like this. So what's the hardest thing about the shaping? Like, what do you think is the most important? I was talking to Walt because Walt's built some boards. I'm sure you've talked to
Yeah.
him. Hasn't done it in a while. I built some boards. They're hilarious. And I mean, I feel like, I don't know, sanding has got to be like,
Yeah, well,
because
it's
I guess, so when it comes down to your construction, you can tell me, I guess, but as you've got the machine, you know, you're spending a lot of time on the computer, I assume, and then hand finishing it, as you get better, your layup becomes better, so then you have to sand less, you know?
yeah,
or,
it's always like, I would say the sanding is after shaping. Sanding is probably the most critical part because so let's put yourself in like the sander perspective of like you work in a factory as a sander, right? Like for me at Quattro, like Keith, they mill the board and Keith shapes it, and then it goes to another guy, put the boxes, and then it gets built, and then it gets to me. I have to sand it. Like I better not screw up, because I will screw up like a week. Like I'm the one that's finishing the product, bringing it back. The sander brings it back. It's almost like you're shaping it again. You bring it back to what it's supposed to be, and you have to do it nicely, because otherwise it's gonna be, you look at a board, you're like, oh, it looks bad. You're not gonna. People don't care, but I mean, some people do, like, pay attention to details and construction, but you can build a perfect board and then you put the pad crooked, and they'd be like, oh, but that's not like important. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, sanding is definitely, I would say it's one of the hardest things for the whole process. It's the most delicate, and because it's what's going to give the looks to the board. Yeah. And also, you can ruin a board sanding if you sand through too much.
It's so easy. It's so easy to mess it up.
You make weak spots, and then if you don't know that you made a weak spot, you're not gonna fix it. Yeah. And then the customer gets the board, and they're like, oh, this like cracked. I'm like, yeah, because the sander sanded a little too much. Yeah.
Because I haven't made a board in a long time. I did a lot of repairs at one point, and it's just like the sanding.
Sanding is the hard,
the repair part, because you've got edges and layers, and you've got to finite tune it and make it flat, and you don't want to take off too much. I've taken off too much too often.
Yeah, especially in the repairs, because you can fix a board, but then to sand it and make it.
Well, because you're sanding into the board that it already is. And
you only gotta sand like this much, and then everything else gotta stay pristine, and then it's. So yeah, definitely sanding is one of the hardest.
Yeah, because I feel your boards, and they're just all so smooth and clean and like.
Yeah, I try. It's not as easy as it should be all the time, because sometimes sometimes it's a little hotter, the resin reacts a little different, sometimes you get air bubbles, sometimes you don't. Yeah, it's just it's just, but definitely, yeah, sanding is the most, you need to be skilled. Like if I ever hire somebody to help me, it'll be a while before I hire a sander, because I gotta make sure, like, if I spend a week building something, and you can ruin it in 30 seconds, literally. So
a nice little burn through that you've got.
Nice little burn through, and then you gotta do a ding repair on a board that's never been ridden, and you will see it. Yeah. Like once you do a ding repair, you will see it. It's not.
That's tough. Do I need to move my van? You think they're trying to get the van out? No.
Let me ask. It's tough to ask for help. You gotta make sure, like, the people that are helping you know what they're doing. Otherwise,
I'm horrible at asking for help in all of my stuff.
You try to do everything, and then you're like
carrying 20 boards, trying to open a door, and I can't ask somebody to help me open a door. You can't open the door while I open it. Yeah, no, it's. Well, it's your craft, right? It's your board, it's your product on this side, on your Frank Foilboards. So everything's got to be,
Yeah, because then I'm the one that gets the phone call, like, oh, this and that. I'm like, I know, like, then there's nobody to blame. It's like, it's me, Yeah. I'd rather, but then
blame yourself,
because I know that I pay, you pay extra attention every step, because every step counts. Yeah. You can just, I'll focus on the sanding.
That's right, because if you do the first step right, the second step, then the sanding will be,
everything will be
easier.
Yeah.
Right. And I've learned that. Yeah. I haven't done it, but I know, I understand that, like, where, like, I'm sanding off, like, a 1/4 inch of resin because it, like, pooled up, or I did something stupid. Like, I've only made 3 boards, but I know how all of that process and every single step of, like, where you put the tape and where you cut it, and how.
Yeah, and the more you do it,
I guess you're I don't know how your process is, but I assume you're putting on the resin, and then you're putting the layup on, then you're vacuuming them.
Yeah, I do I do on the bare foam.
You don't have to give away any secrets, Frank.
On the bare foam, I don't. Some people like to when you vacuum bagging, you don't do the traditional way. Like, if you go on YouTube and put like surfboard glassing, you'll see that they'll put the blank on the stands and they put the cloth dry on the board, and then they.
Yeah, that's what I've done.
Yeah, you don't do that for carbon like vacuum bagging, because you're gonna waste so much resin.
You don't need as much resin.
So you're laminating on a table, and then you transfer that lamination onto the board. Some people do it on the bare foam. I like to do like a resin putty to get better adhesion, and like seals the foam a little bit. So I do that, and then you transfer the lamination, vacuum bag it. Do that for each side. All the reinforcement, everything goes in at that point. And that's once you do it like a lot of times, it's not that stressful, but that's like, whenever you mix in resin, it's like, the time is important. Like you can't just mix resin and like, oh, I forgot.
Oh, trust, I've done that so many times.
And you're like,
you're mixing it and you're like, oh, damn, did I do this? And you're like, oh, my got gloves on now all of a sudden, and you're like, time is ticking.
Yeah, so it's like, the more you do it, the less stressful it becomes. Like for me, that's not stressful at all right now. You find the resin they use all the time, how much time you have, what time of the day you're gonna, especially here in Hawaii. Like if I go do a back job at 5 in the morning, it's chilling, it's fine. Like it's not hot. But if I do it at 2 in the afternoon, you might, be on it a little, because the resin might start kicking a little faster because it's, 100 degrees outside.
That's crazy, yeah. But
once you do it long enough, you learn. One of the biggest lessons I learned working at Quattro was Mike Storm. He does all their vacuum bag jobs over there. He's been building boards for like 25 years. Used to work with Mark Nelson.
Such a cool community of...
Yeah, and then, we all share things, and I was building Toddy's windsurf board once, and I was totally, I'm going into Thierry with the other glasser in his room, and it's not your room, you don't know where everything is, and he wasn't around, so I thought, I'm gonna use this resin, whatever. Turns out I mix resin with resin, no catalyst, and I'm all happy like glassing this board. I'm like, oh, this resin feels a little thick, but it was like a cold winter day. I'm like, oh, maybe that's why the resin's thicker. So I'm glassing this board, blah, 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 and then I finish, I go home, and I have this, when you think back of what you did and you see like pictures of what you did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I see myself pouring the resin, it's like viscous, and then I pour what I thought was catalyst, and it's viscous the same. I'm like, no way. I mixed resin with resin, glassed the board just with resin, go back. I called Mike. I'm like, Mike, I screwed up. Like, now I gotta throw everything away. And that was already like a windsurf board. When you get to the glassing, you already put all the boxes, inserts, everything. So you're like, $200-300 deep.
Oh my God.
And like, 4 or 5 days of work into it. I'm like, no. And he's like, it's fine. Just scrape it all out and you can glass on it. It'll be fine. He said, just remember, like, mistakes are, like, I've done plenty of mistakes. It's like, as long as you learn and you never do it again, you can keep doing mistakes. And, like, just don't do the same. And
how many times have you mixed resin with resin?
Just that one time. And so that's, that was the biggest lesson. Like, mistakes are good. Just learn from it and don't do it again. So, yeah. But the thing is, if you build 3 boards in 2 years, you don't do it often. Like
no way.
If you do 2 boards a week, and you're the one working throughout the whole process, you're gonna want to make your life easy. So you screw up once, and then it's gonna be hard for you the next step, and you're like,
oh, sorry, kitty cat.
So mistakes are good, just don't do it twice.
Yeah. Well, that's why I stopped skydiving, is because when you don't do it repeatedly, it's not as safe.
Yeah, and you can't.
You can't make a mistake once.
You can't.
You die.
Yeah, you can't.
Like if I went into the room to go to try to glass a board.
Yeah, because you don't have your routine.
It would take me hours and hours to try to figure out the process.
You have your routine. Right? You have your routine, and then you change one thing. Like it's like maybe your resin you use all the time is not available, you get a different resin. Now it's like now your routine has changed.
Yeah.
Or different peel ply or different
box, different sizes,
yeah,
different
now
router
you're like
bit.
Now your routine has changed. It takes a couple of weeks to get used to it, but it's fun. I mean, I'm so thankful that I get to do this full time now, and then Mark, it's been super helpful.
Yeah, I didn't know that this process has been so short, since you've been making these downwind boards. I mean, you've been making boards and wing boards and all of that, but I didn't know that these were so short-lived at this point, and your shapes are so progressive and your boards are so good that the construction is just, I mean, I want a board because the moment I saw them, I was like, damn, that is just so sexy.
It's been 3 years of 2.5, 3 years of downwinding, and just it's just trying, learning by myself, because you have the good guys here, but it's still like it's not like, oh, I can go to Jeremy, he'll tell me what to do, because he's still figuring, like 3 years ago he was still figuring out, and then it's like now I feel like people have more of a say, like they can say something and you can be like, okay, that makes sense. But like 3 years ago nobody knew, so it's just been like the process of trying first person, like what works and what doesn't, and try to fix it, just simply to make it easy for myself, because I'm not like, Kane goes, I don't know if he goes every day, but that's all he does, and he gets to try things, and he can ride, sometimes he'll show up with like a wing board, like a 8-7 foot or whatever, like a weird wing board, and he'll go downwind with it, like a 85 liter board, and he makes it work, but because he's an alien. Like I can't do that, but I can try, and because I'm not that great, I can.
I saw you pretty much flat water paddle up yesterday on a foil that you never used.
But that's like after the board helps, and I feel like this last winter I got really, like, I can tell I'm a little better than what I used to. Just because I had the chance of going more often and trying different foils and trying different boards, and go, you go with Guido, like he goes freaking like so fast, like you got to keep up. So it's just the last year got better, but this design, is just like not even a year old, but it comes from, couple years, 3 years of trying all kinds of different things, and with the knowledge of, sailing and surfboards I had from, 10, 20 years. And kind of trying to make it all together. But also,
all that experience and talent.
And getting to pick brains of people that you have access to over here, which is not, like if I was back in Italy, that's no way, like there's no Mark there I can ask things, there's no, Kane, or there's no Guido, there's no going every day. It's
a little bit more spread out. Everything's so like.
I think it went as fast as it did because of
the environment,
where we are, who you're with, and what you have access to. And it, even just like seeing how people ride, even if you don't even know what they're riding, but like looking at how they ride, and then you try to do what they do. And then that's like a whole, it's like all the sports, right? Like kiting, if you're kiting by yourself, you're only going to be so good. If you kite with 10 really good riders, you're going to get really good.
Well, social media helps in that aspect, right? You're like, you see these people doing, sitting, like I saw Kane the other day on a run, he's just sitting on his board, riding it, like, I was like, is that guy kayaking on a foil? And I was like, oh no, it's Kane. He's behind me, and he's sitting on his board, doing weird things, like,
if you don't
see that, like, maybe he doesn't post it because it's not cool enough or something, but then they're just sitting down riding a foil, like, there's some crazy weird things with kiting, because I'm still really involved with that. It's the big air scene is crazy. But then they post it all online. The competitions, it was cool to watch the competition, but they're all doing that or better online, and they're just posting it, and like triple loops and like crazy board offs, behind their bag. And like
it's funny
it's
how
just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how the kiting is, because it started with big air. That's all they used to be.
Yeah.
And then went all freestyle, and now it's like all big air again.
Yeah.
It's like the show factor. It's like, somebody that has no idea of what kiting is, you show them a freestyle contest, they'd be like, eh. And then you show them the guys in Cape Town doing like double, triple kite loops, like 100 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
And people are like, whoa, wait a second. So it's like, downwind too, like we did the run yesterday, all these people on the beach to see you come in, and they ask, they were asking us, where's the motor? And I go, where's the motor?
Yeah.
There is no motor. They're what?
I've tried to narrow that conversation down to try to give them as much information as I can so that they understand in the shortest amount of time, so they understand what they're doing. Like, oh, it's a hydrofoil. It floats above the water. Like, what?
They're like, what?
And I'm like, so I have a system. I'm like, no, it doesn't have a motor. This is how it works. This is what a hydrofoil is. This is how we get it up. This is, you can do it. You can do it. And I'm like, they're like, oh, that's so cool. And then they walk away. I'm like, done.
Why?
And then the next person, and then the next person.
It's funny because here, you see that more on Kihei, but because the Maligo run, you don't really end up in touristy places.
Yeah. You're with fishermen.
But yeah, when you go to Wailea and like all the people that come on vacation, they look at you like you're an alien. Like, wow, where do you come from? Like, oh, we come from like
10 miles that way.
Oh, see the thing up there? They're like, what?
I don't think you can understand the concept.
No.
Even when you do it and you're a foiler, you still don't understand the concept of like what it is, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to convince my friends now. That's why we're going back to Italy in September. And same when I was trying to tell them kite foiling was a thing and winging, they're like, no, and then they all did it. I'm telling them, like, you guys can downwind for sure. Because I know my hometown.
They're like, that's so kooky.
No, they just don't think they can do it. They're like, oh, we don't have, because you're on Maui, you got 30 knots. I'm like, well, you don't need 30 knots. No. I'm like, look at the guys in Puerto Rico. Look at the guys in Spain. Look at, you know, you don't have to. The foils are so good. You just
adapt,
Yeah. So I'm going to try and convince them, see.
Yeah. Yeah, you should.
See what happens.
Yeah.
But it's been great. The only bad thing is that's all you think about. You don't want to do, I don't kite anymore. I don't windsurf anymore. I don't windsurfing this winter. I would drive up to Hokipa with my windsurf gear and I'd see how windy it would be and call Guido. I was like, Guido, let's go. Yeah. And you go, he's like, yeah. It's like, okay, go back home, throw away the windsurf gear, get the downwind board.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I was thinking about it the other day. I think about it a lot, is how much we plan and coordinate and wait and drive. I would not, I would be so lazy to go winging if all my gear wasn't at my hotel and I couldn't pump it up right there and go out.
But then we drive an hour.
I wouldn't grab my gear and drive half an hour to go session somewhere, but now I'll drive to go somewhere, to drive somewhere to go somewhere, to go somewhere else, to get in a car, to drive back. I was like, and I'm thinking, damn, why is it damn, I can't believe
it's just such a special thing that it's just, that's why. It's
like, why am I doing this again?
Well, and also there isn't a really other way of doing it, so you're forced. You're I mean, I try to squeeze it in, I don't know, if we're going to town, let's say we're going to Costco, because Costco's in town here, we live 5 minutes from Maliko. I'm like, it's like, okay, well, it's 2 o'clock, we're going to Costco, it's going to take me about the same time that, before I couldn't do that. When I was I was still learning, I couldn't do that, because I'd be like, oh, come get me at the harbor, and then she might be waiting for an hour for me. But now, I know I can,
done that.
Yeah, now I know I can get there in 35, 40 minutes, she can drop me off.
And I'm always thinking about that too, how the day is going, and I'm thinking, and my brain starts to go wild.
You're always trying to fit it in.
Oh, where could I all of a sudden I've got maybe a ride and my wife could pick me up or something, and my brain goes and I get all this weirdly
it's always
sidetracked about it.
Yeah, I do the same. Oh, I'm thinking of my day.
I'm such a jerk.
And Tati gets so mad at me. She's like, can you just one day? It's it's not even you going down, it's the whole planning, and you're on your phone trying to figure it out, asking my mom, can you just one day, can you just don't do that? It's it's not for you being gone in the water, that's fine. It's the whole planning, and
you're yes, and then an hour goes by and you're but
And I say yes, and then I get Dylan, hey, we're going to Kihei. I'm like, oh, scratch that, I'm going to Kihei. Like,
Yeah.
it's so easy to get sidetracked here. I need a,
man, three people, it's perfect.
yeah.
You know, because you can, if you wanted to do a second run, then you've got the availability.
yeah.
Like 2 people with me and Walt trying to do 2 runs in a day,
It's hard.
5 hours going to get his car to bring it back to do it again. But if you have like just 3 people, or you can meet up with somebody here, it's cool because you can all of a sudden meet up with people.
Yeah.
In Puerto Rico, there's no way. You're
Yeah.
not meeting,
Yeah,
like
you
you're
guys
not
do a lot of-
accidentally bumping into a downwinder.
And then you guys do a lot of like Uber, like taxis back
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, taxis are, it's the best way for us, because then we all leave our cars there, we jump in a taxi, we're done. You have no
Yeah.
driver, you have no drive back,
Yeah,
you're not waiting for anybody.
Yeah, for me,
It's
the
interesting.
best, it's like if I get offered, because I don't want to be the one that's always getting driven up without ever offering the
Yeah.
drive up. So
Yeah.
I try to, put my time in. I always offer, meet at the harbor, and I guess I collected enough points that sometimes, my friends are like, oh, yeah, don't worry, just, because they know I'm busy. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
just come to Malika, we'll drive you back. And that
Yeah.
saves me like 2 hours.
Yeah,
Not 2 hours, but hour and a half.
good amount of time, yeah.
Because I'm right here, and they need to drive back here anyways, and then from there it's like 5 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
So whenever I get to do that, it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It saves. We'll eventually. People with the full drive, they do their, they go upwind with the motor, and then
Yeah.
downwind down. You can wing upwind, and I don't know how convenient that is, but there's ways of doing it. But
It'll start becoming more of a thing.
Yeah.
I think as the gear progresses and the wings become collapsible.
yeah,
Like an umbrella.
Yeah, just go and
Fold it up.
Yeah, no, it's.
You know.
Because logistics is the main thing, but it really is not.
Yeah, once you get in a rhythm with it,
Yeah.
or like, you have a little bit of,
Yeah.
planning in you.
I mean,
you
I
can
come
figure
from
it out.
coming from sailing. I mean, this logistics is nothing. Like you're sailing, you're going to a race on a weekend. You gotta take down. We're used to race Hobie Cat 16s.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we're going for a race. Okay, you gotta break down everything, put it on a trailer, drive it to wherever you're going, take it off the trailer, put it all back together, do your race, and then break it all down again, put it on the trailer, drive back to your home, take it down the trailer and put it back up again.
Yeah.
It's like,
The only worry we have here is like, do I have to take my foil off?
it's like I have
You're
to
like,
take my foot. It's like 4 screws and you're done. It's
Yeah.
like it's not.
It's not that big of a
Like we're
deal.
putting like 2 boats on a trailer. 4 or 5 people cramped up in the car, drive for like 8 hours. Because from my hometown, we used to go a lot into like Lake Como up in the north of Italy.
Mhm.
It's like
I've
an
been there.
8-hour drive. You like leave at 4 in the morning. You drive up there. It's like I gotta drive a half hour. A big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal.
And you still get people that like they would not drive up. You're like, come on, dude, like we're all offering.
Yeah.
We're all gonna need some help at some point.
Yeah,
You might wanna collect some special points that you can use later on.
yeah. That's important for sure.
But no, it's great. It's great community, great everything. It's just been such a good year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to
Yeah, no.
figure out what I want. I think that board,
The new
That-
710
that thing
special
was
sauce.
that was pretty cool. And I hope it works in Puerto Rico. No, it'll work. I mean,
It
I've been
will,
on something
yeah.
smaller, so. But it's cool to hear your story and
Yeah.
love your boards, the construction, what
Yeah.
you're doing. I mean, your place is epic.
Yeah,
And-
pretty lucky. You can't complain. Like I said, like thinking back, like like the pharmacy school and all the stuff I did in the past, like sometimes you think back and you're like, oh, I wish I did this from the beginning, but I'm
Maybe-
here because of all what happened.
And maybe it wouldn't have lasted.
Yeah.
Right now, like always, it's the most exciting time, right?
Yeah, and it's just whatever happened, in my life, I wouldn't change it because it brought me here, and just trying to be. I feel like the main thing is you just gotta be always thankful and humble. Don't ever be like, oh, I'm like whatever, because it's not. Nothing is due to you. You gotta just be humble with what you got.
Yeah.
At least in I don't know, the way I grew up, it's always, be thankful, try to be doing the right thing, and, things will come. Like if you're acting up right.
Yeah, if your energy's right.
Yeah, if you're, the one guy that's like, oh, it's all me, then, nah. that probably
Yeah.
won't work that
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
That's Guido.
oh yeah, he's been laser focused.
Yeah.
I mean, he started foiling like downwinding last summer,
Yeah.
and he ended up 8th overall in the Triple Crown, like of the downwind. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Yeah. All of you guys did the race, which is super cool, and that's
Yeah.
a whole podcast in itself, talking
Yeah.
about the race
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
And then I tried his foils. They're not like, for him to do what he did with those. I mean, they're fast foils, but they're super hard. Like, you have to be 100% concentrated 100% of the time
At the right speed.
at the right speed. So he's so fine tuned with what he does.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I saw the top guys in those race. It's just not, I don't know, like 2-3 seconds standing would be too long.
Yeah.
They were just like,
And not everybody like it.
No,
like,
no,
like
not
Andrew.
everybody,
Like Andrew has this. He's more flowy, and
Yeah.
he's still like super fast. I mean, he got second.
so efficient on that foil. It's
But yeah,
crazy.
Edo. Like because I drove Edo and Obi up to Fleming's to the start of M2M, and we're freaking out because we're driving. It's just glassy, just nothing. Like in Lahaina, it's just
Yeah.
glass. And we're like, oh no, it's gonna be tough. And Edo's like, well, I only have my 600. I gotta make it work.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, I'm thinking I have the biggest foil I have is at 850, and I'm freaking
Well,
out.
rumors are there's some pretty crazy foils in that race.
There's some crazy stuff, yeah,
like
for sure.
some, like
Secret high aspect stuff. That's-
insane,
yeah.
insane span, high aspect. Not even prototypes, just things that no one would use
They're
unless
not
you're
even- like
going
a one-off.
fast straight, like
Yeah.
crazy. I'm like, I had no idea foils like that existed.
But yeah, Edo, all those guys, they train. Everybody has been this year. You see it when we go on the races on Oahu. Edo, Andrew, Kane, the Finn and
Yeah, Spencer Brothers,
Spencer brothers,
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, yeah, they're Guido. Whenever we go there, it's like it's so fun and chit chat, and then when it's time to drive up at the top, everybody's just like,
Laser focus.
yeah.
That's
And
cool.
It's been great what John did. I think it really helped preparing for the races. I hope he does it again this winter. I might want to do something here, like same, just it's nothing official, just like fun, like every second Sunday we meet up and we do the run we do all the time, but like race minded, just so it's
You're in the mindset.
just so you get bragging points.
Yeah, that as well.
Yeah, that's what John was calling. He's calling bragging rights downwind races. That's what he had on his flyer for
Oh,
the
yeah.
race. That bragging rights, foiling something. He put,
Ugh, no wind in Puerto Rico.
yeah.
Kihei's not up yet.
I think it might be North Shore today.
Yeah, it looks a little bit more east.
Always look at those trees there. Look that. And those trees over there, if those are moving,
It's already pretty windy.
Well, it's good, you can
22 right now at the airport.
yeah. Oh, then yeah, if it's east,
Northeast.
oh yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's not always, even if it's a little north.
Let's run it again.
Let's go. Let's get sidetracked again.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks for
Yeah. No, thanks for having
doing
me.
this. I'm stoked that you decided to get on the podcast. and
Yeah.
that I decided to do one. I was like, not in the
Too much playing.
too much, and I've been working too much, so I was just like kind of vegged out for a second.
Yeah.
But this was super fun.
Yeah. No, it's
So
great.
thanks,
It
and
was
thanks
great.
for the boards, and
Yeah.
I hope more people, they can look you up. Frank Foilboards.
Yeah. Frank
Hopefully
Foilboards.
your wait list is not too long. But
Yeah,
I've
we're
seen the
around-
way that you make boards.
I think we're around
you're
like
pretty good.
around
Pretty
February.
fast.
Around February.
Oh, really?
March right now. Yeah.
Oh,
but
damn.
I can squeeze people in.
Wild.
It might be quicker.
No downwinders for you today.
No downwinder for you. But no, I can't. I don't want to say like, oh, your board's gonna be ready next month, and then
Yeah,
it's not. Like, I'd rather tell you like I'll give myself a couple weeks,
Get it right.
and then if it's quicker, I mean, who doesn't like you get a text message.
Your board's
you're waiting.
ready.
You're thinking your board's gonna be next month, and you get a text message. Oh, your board's gonna be ready next week. Like,
Yeah, that's cool.
That's a better message than you thinking
Oh,
you're getting
sorry,
a board
it's-
next week.
it's
and
2
like,
weeks
oh,
late.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure it's the same for you if you order something, you know, for your store.
Yeah, it's the same. I'm
Like,
always like, oh, it'll take 4 weeks, and then
Yeah.
it's like, hey, it's here 2 weeks later.
You maybe know it might get there in a week, but you don't want to tell everybody, oh, next week I have all the photos, because
Wow.
then you got 20 people on.
It's a balancing game, because
Yeah.
then they'll order it from somebody else. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like trying to rush to get shit. I'm like,
Yeah.
if I say 4 weeks,
Yeah.
and it's going to be 2,
Yeah.
then they might not order from. It's like there's a balance there.
Yeah, same for me too. I'm
Yeah.
like,
You got to
that's
figure
the same
it out.
with the races, you know. Adrian,
Everyone's so antsy to get on something. They're like,
and I thought it was done. I'm like, oh, the race season is done, and now they have the races in France, and I have people asking me, oh, can you make me a board? I'm like, I'm leaving in a month to Italy. I got orders to do, but I guess I'll try and squeeze it in. And Taddy's like, why do you do that? I'm like, well, because, you know, then at least, even if there's one board at the race, it's better than no boards.
yeah, for sure.
And people see it.
Exposure.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm just starting, so it's a learning curve, but, you know.
It's cool. I'm happy to be here at the front. Well, it feels like the front for me, because I just found out about you. But
Yeah.
Frank,
Thank you.
thanks for being on the podcast.
Sweet.
Aloha.
Thank you. Aloha. Oh, man, that was fun.